Welcome back. Now, the South African Federation of Trade Unions is rejecting plans to increase taxes to fund the COVID-19 vaccine. The union says the increase will further burden the poor. Now, it further says government should instead put more effort into acquiring cheaper generic vaccines. Let's speak to Saftu General Secretary, that's Mr. Zwelinzima Vavi, who talks to us now from Johannesburg. So thank you for your time and good morning to you. Now, you reject, of course, suggestions for even a possible tax hike. Tell us why.
No. We're not rejecting a possibility of a tax increase as a matter of principle. No, you got us wrong there. We are rejecting a suggestion which we know may be in the Treasury's mind, that the poor yet again are going to be asked to be the ones who carry the burden of a tax increase. You will recall that in 2018, we had a VAT increase of 1%. We're arguing that the VAT is a regressive tax system and that the calculations have been very clear for many years. In fact, from inception, when we objected to the introduction of the VAT in 1991, it had become clear that in a proportion, the poor pays more in the VAT than the rest of society. And so we're warning the Treasurer not to even think of increasing the VAT at this stage, but to look at the other options that we are putting on the table. For example, we're saying if you consider, and we urge the Treasury to consider the other options that are going to help us raise the funds, not only for the vaccination that we are already late in introducing in South Africa, but for the other measures that are so critical to help the economy survive the devastating blows that we are receiving from the level 3 lockdown regulations, including the fact that the tourism industry has been put back to stage 1, or in terms of the impact of the current regulations, and the restaurant industry, the liquor industry that is linked so critically to the agriculture. There is no measures government have introduced to cushion our people. There's no stimulus. So we're asking government to put on the table a stimulus that will force them to look at other sources of funding. And here is what we are proposing.
Right. And furthermore to that, Mr. Vavi, and thank you for the clarity, but furthermore to what you're saying, to emphasize and reiterate your stance, I understand that on the 24th of Feb, you'll be taking a protest action.
We have a general strike on the 24th of February. We decided on the general strike sometime last year because we felt that, as we know, the Treasury is going to be putting the last nails on the coffins of the workers and the poor on the 24th. It has already refused to abide by a decision, a contractual agreement that it has with the public sector unions. It is now imposing an austerity in that there will be no increases for the people that they usually praise for helping us fight this pandemic in the hospitals, in the police stations, in the correctional services. There will be no increase for those people for until 2024. In addition to that, government is cutting expenditure left, right, and center, and we're warning them not to consider cutting expenditure on the frontline delivery service areas as they try to find the 20 billion. There is a 20 billion rand that can be found almost immediately. The first thing that the government ought to be doing, in our view, is to review the fact that during the apartheid, the corporates were paying up to 52% at some point of corporate taxes. And now the government have driven that to 28%. We're saying that's our first source of funding. Reconsider that 28% in the context of the total disaster the economy is going through. Secondly, we know that the firms are moving illicitly 400 billion rands of money that they are putting into the safe havens all over the world. We're saying stop that flow, tighten up your monetary policies, tighten up your exchange controls. That's our second source of funding. Thirdly, the Treasury officials have told us in the past that we are losing between 35 and 40% of our procurement budget to fraud, to tender fraud.
Right.
We're asking to tighten that You will get your 20 billions and more to introduce a basic income grant to make sure that the TERS is reintroduced, and that the workers, in particular the hospital industry and agriculture liquor, are not left stranded. But in general, there's 11 million people now unemployed in the country. The 350 rands is not a solution to that. You can't continue to insult the poor by giving them a 350 rands when they can see the news, for example, from the fact that today we'll be listening to Joe Biden's inauguration. He have put a 34,000 rand on the table of the people who are earning below a certain amount in America, $17,000. Why can't we be inspired? How can the ANC suddenly be more right-wing than the Democrats in the United States? Where is the claim that the ANC government is a pro-poor when it is giving 350 rands tokenist grants to the unemployed, who then get sprayed by water by insensitive ministers for stamping over each other in desperation in order to get that.
Mr. Vavi, if I can just jump in there because of time. I mean, when we're just also talking about the issue of vaccines, I recently read an article about, and I'm sure you've also seen reports of, different pharmaceutical companies or even vaccine manufacturers, for example, Pfizer, even saying that they had tried for months and months to negotiate with South Africa, obviously proposing conversations, but it seems that those conversations were delayed. And on the other hand, you're saying that Treasury should stop frustrating, efforts to acquire this vaccine. Why do you think they would do this?
They have already sort of made an indication to the Financial Mail initially, and I know that they are now in the process of trying to do the damage control. They ask a very stupid, naive, and insensitive question as to what is so important about getting vaccines when the country have other priorities. The Treasury or the DG in the Treasury have reversed that statement, have made firm commitment that they are going to bring in the doses that are so required, that the President has made a commitment to the country that we will have at least to cover 2/3 of our population. The point we're making is that we are wholly late now. People are dying in numbers as we speak. We are on the 15th of January. And we're half of the month, and we can't afford a further single day wasted in further empty commitments that are being made to the country. We want those vaccines yesterday. We want the health, the police, the teachers, the correctional services staff, and generally all the working class and the poor to be prioritized. And we're not waiting for the speech of the Treasury on the 24th. We want action on the part of the government immediately to save lives.
All right, then, Mr. Zwelinzima, thank you so much for your time.